So I have this communications running now from that module. So it is the module is the L432KC microcontroller, and then the Wi-Fi module mod Wi-Fi ESP. They are working, and it's the device is at the moment just telling that it has unplugged, or it's stopped recording, stopped sending the UDP packets to the server, and it's advising me to unplug my device because I don't like to send more packets than necessary. I'll reset it once. So it's beginning of the Wi-Fi example, and then it is scanning the networks, and then it is connecting. And then it got the information, and then it's getting the time. Right, it's working. And then what is this all about? Let's have a first look at what is a user datagram protocol. So I just opened the Wikipedia page, and then user datagram protocol is a simple protocol used in the IP networks. So you can send it from a certain your computer where you are sending the UDP message, like our microcontroller here has got an IP address, and then the UDP in there is sent out from a certain port number. So you actually define here the source port number where it is coming from, and then you define the destination port number on the message. And then you define the length of the message, and then it's calculating a checksum in here. And then this header here is put inside an IP frame. And then now that header is there inside the frame. So then in the IP network, you have the source IP address, destination IP address, and then which protocol you are using. So telling that you are using the UDP. And then there is the UDP message length. And then the UDP frame itself. So the header first, so the source port, destination port, length, and checksum. And then there is the data. So this packet is then sent over the IP network to the destination IP address. So that's how it, let's say, works on the more like almost like a physical level. And then we go and have a look at what they say about the UDP messaging, or what they say about the Wi-Fi. So we are now at the moment using the Wi-Fi network. So there in the operating system MbedOs, there is this NetworkInterface application, and then like inheritance from that is the Wi-Fi interface. So if we look at the Ethernet interface, it's similar. There is this network interface, and like the Ethernet interface is in the hierarchy below that one. So the Ethernet interface and the Wi-Fi interface works the same way. And then, but we don't go to the details of these right now. So let's have a look at what they say about the UDP. Then on the UDP, so we are talking about the UDPSocket. So there is it's a socket, it's internet socket, internet datagram socket, and then it is this UDP socket. And then this is the easiest way of sending data over the internet. And then we can have a look on some of the method it can use. So it's the UDP socket. It can send to. So we define there in this for the send to a socket address. So that's the which address we are sending to. And then we define also a receive from. So we can define that, or that's the where the message is coming in. So UDP socket is a connection, or the UDP is a connectionless protocol. So you don't necessarily make a connection to the between the sender and the receiver, not a permanent connection. So you can send the UDP messages out to any IP address, to any port, without knowing that if there in the other end is anyone receiving it. It is not checking that if the receiver have received anything. You can just send out the UDP messages and you don't know if there is anyone listening. That's the idea of this really simple protocol. Also, you can set up an UDP receiver, like a UDP server on your own microcontroller or computer. And then you start receiving from any IP address who is sending into your IP address the UDP messages, and to that port you have defined. Anyone sending, you will receive those if they just know your IP address and your port number where your UDP server is listening for the incoming messages. That's the basic setup. That's the whole idea of the UDP. But then there is also an UDP connect. And that is used in the way that you define your own IP address, you define the receiver IP address, and then after making this connection, you don't accept any UDP messages outside from these two IP addresses. So it's like a connection. So anything you receive, you know that it comes from that certain IP address, and anything you send out without defining the address again, it goes to the same IP address. So it gives like a default value for your send address, and then it gives like a filtering in the incoming messages that I'm accepting only from that IP address the message is in. And then there are the send commands with the data and the size. And then there is a receive also method with the data and the size. And then some other like methods as well. The close might be necessary if you have made a connection, then you can close the connection. Or just a matter, is it for closing the whole socket? I'm not sure. But anyway, but then that's basically the most important things are these send to, receive from, this send and receive, and then making the connection.